Hey y'all, hey, it's JJ Conway. Welcome to Building Wealth Together, where our goal is to help you walk in abundance and leave a legacy. It's Mindset Monday, where we take the best teachings on mindset, motivation, and leadership and apply them to your life. This helps you get past the past and grow forward into abundance. Let's get into it. Hey y'all, hey, it's JJ Conway. I am back with another wonderful guest for our Mindset Monday. Welcome to Building Wealth Together. We are in the holiday season, and this is the time that it's the most important. It's more important than ever. I'm telling you a third time, it is so important to make sure we have our mindset right as we go into the holidays. Today, I have a wonderful guest for you. His name is Greg Brinkley. He is an elite executive coach. He's an author, motivational and inspirational speaker, a leadership consultant, and CEO of Greg Brinkley Enterprises. He is known as the government game changer, and he is America's #1 coach for Black government professionals. Please, I want to welcome Greg to the stage to Building Wealth Together. I know that we're going to talk about a lot of more general game-changing career movement advice. But, I'm just going to let the audience know one of the things that really resonated with me about you is that you talk to people about dealing with toxicity in government. And so that's not the focus of our talk today, but I want to let people know that, because as someone who recently retired from the Air Force, one of the saddest days for me as a leader was realizing how toxic the work environment was for our civilians, for our federal civilians, and feeling powerless to do anything about it. In the Air Force, I had come up the ranks, and as a lieutenant colonel, you kind of expect that if you want to get something done, you're going to be able to get it done. And I was at a point where I could not change the culture, because it wasn't just my unit, it was the entire base. It was so disheartening. And so I have much love and appreciation for what you do in helping empower government workers. Welcome to the Building Wealth Together podcast.
Thanks, JJ. Glad to be here. Glad to have the opportunity to speak with you and to all of your tribe on this issue. Oh, yeah.
we need you. We need you. I needed you about 3 years ago. It's interesting. I say that, but I was in a coaching application the other day, and they asked me this question. They said, what would you change? If you could change anything about your past, what would you change? And I started to write down the false accusations and toxic work environment that I was in at one point in my career. And then I thought, well, gee, if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't have seen that side of the Air Force. And my understanding of the Air Force up until then had been fairly golden. Like I was making it happen. I was doing all kinds of great things and right. Being around great people, and people were, people thought I was on a fast track, and I had a car accident and knocked me off of it. And I saw a whole other side of the Air Force. I was like, well, I really can't put that down. Because if that didn't change, I wouldn't be the well-rounded person I am. And then I thought about all the other things. I'm like, I can't even say I want something to change. I wish those things hadn't happened, but they're a part of making me who I am. And I have no guarantee I'd be the amazing person I am right now if those things hadn't happened. So I don't know, but I gotta know. Why do they call you the government game changer?
Well, my career started in the state of California. I was working at what's called the Disability Determination Service. I was in the mailroom. I started out in the mailroom. I was a permanent intermittent, not even able to work 40 hours because the permanent intermittent position only allowed you to work a maximum of 39 hours a week. So I had 30 hour work week. I was in the mailroom, not handling the mail. That's how far under the total pole I was.
Wait. You're in the mail room, not handling the mail.
Right. I was opening the mail pouches. They would send disability cases from the field into our office. I would just open up the pouches. When they're ready to go out, I would pouch them up again and send them out. So it was an experience of me being 24 years old, a young Black man in this position, but still having the mindset that, hey, I'm not staying here. And through 27 years, I've been able to maximize all of the ups and downs of working in government into different entities, the state of California and the federal government, and get to the boardroom and actually meeting and being valued by regional commissioners and even with the I just lost it. I did a presentation before the Inspector General of Social Security. So I was able to go from literally from the mailroom to the boardroom in my 27-year career. So it was an amazing and sometimes turbulent ride. So, but I know what it's like to go through those ups and downs of government and have to deal with all of the barriers that I had to face along the way.
Oh man, that's so important, from the mailroom to the boardroom, and those barriers and things like that are very, very poignant. You know, when I was going through the whole season of the false accusations and having to fight for my name, and people were too afraid of the bosses to come forward and support me, and thankfully some did, so I was able to get my name cleared. But still, when I went through that, I went and talked to all of our Black GS-15s and higher. And Building Wealth Together is an all-inclusive podcast. Like, we serve everybody. We're not specifically focused to minorities or anything. But for this story, I went around to all of the Black GS-15s on base, and some of them I either spoke with directly, or others I had heard this from somebody else, but I wasn't able to connect with them in that season, probably because out of their own self-preservation. But every single one of them that I either spoke with or someone recommended I spoke with had this story of this stacked on their desk of all of the times they had been falsely accused. And the one who he was very, very high up. He was one of the highest up people of color at that base, and I'm not going to name him just for respect out of him. But he was like, "Look, if this is our lot, this is our lot in life, and we're going to part of being leadership in this base, in this organization, in this area of the country, this specific southern area of the country, you're going to expect to get falsely accused every 6 months. Consider these your training wheels." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm out." And I was like, you know what? I've done enough. I was the first African American to serve as a physicist in the Air Force, and I had to break a lot of glass ceilings for people to even take me seriously. I was like, I've done enough. I'm going to go have some fun now. And so, which is why, and not knocking, because there are a lot of really good people. That's one thing I miss about no longer being in government work. There are a lot of really good people who really just want to make a difference and accomplish the mission, and they want to do something bigger than them. And you don't find that as often in the corporate world. So, but that's my story of what led me to actually really just go into this business and retire from the Air Force in a pandemic. What led you to make the decision to leave your job and start your business during a pandemic?
Good question. Next question. No, I'm kidding.
I hope it's not as bad, as depressing a story as mine was, but I really think that was that base and that area of the country. Several of the bases in that strip have the same story, and it's just unfortunate, but we have to keep working to fix it. Hopefully you're going to tell me something completely more uplifting.
Well, I hope it is uplifting. So when I was in California, I was with the Social Security Administration. I was a GS-12, and I was this close to being a 13. I was on that fast track, like you were talking about not too long ago. And I had a lot of people in my corner. I mean, even the execs that I closely worked with, it was just almost a no-brainer to some degree. But with my family situation, we decided that we needed to change. So we moved to Austin, Texas. I was a 12. I took a drop in grade to do a not even lateral transfer, but a hardship transfer. And I found myself working in the field office. Never did that work ever. I was under the totem pole again. And I'm the first year, I'm just basically doing grunt work, doing some data entry, filing cases, and the things that I used to do when I was first starting out in government. And then I was getting some exposure, being cross-trained, and I hadn't even been through training in the actual position that I was in. So when I finally got into training was more of a guinea pig experience. They were unfolding this new training module, training system, and my coworker and I we just felt like guinea pigs, that we were just test dummies going through this, and we weren't really getting what we needed or the support. And that's not to say anything bad about those who were in our office. They did their best, but they were hamstrung as well. So when we finally got released from training, it was like, okay, well, you got everything you need. Go ahead and take these cases. I'm like, oh, I'm not sure if I'm ready for this. So that was December. I think it was late December of 2019. And then once COVID hit in March, we ended up going home to telework and do the work. So that was another level of intense frustration and anxiety, because now I'm not meeting with my mentor who sat right across from me. I had to do it online, and she was going through her own challenges of meeting her job demands. So I didn't have the level of support that I really needed. And looking back on the career that I had, and at this time I was already training and preparing to launch my business. So I was kind of in that transitional period where I'm getting accustomed to doing entrepreneurial work, yet at the same time struggling, pulling, I don't have any hair anymore, but if I had hair, it'd be pulled out, from dealing with the challenging cases that I had. So I found myself just really in at that crossroads, trying to figure out, okay, do I just eke this out and try to, serve two masters, or do I do something else? And my wife said, hey, I see you're frustrated. I see it firsthand. If you need to go ahead and branch out and do this, then we'll find a way. And that lifted the monkey off my back, and I decided to go full-fledged into entrepreneurial work after I was able to secure my 10 years of accredited service so I could get a pension. So I had to give it 10 years. Got that solid. As soon as that happened, I was out.
Well, hey, I heard two things that I absolutely, I heard a lot that I love, but two things that for me as a woman that just stood out is, one, you listen to your wife. And a lot of times people think, well, I can't step out of my dream because I've got my family to support. But a lot of times the wife or the husband or the spouse or whatever just wants you to be happy.
Yeah.
And I remember that with my husband, when he had an opportunity to take another job, and I was like, yeah, but I don't know if you're going to be happy in that environment, and you're happy here. And yes, I'm out in the middle of nowhere, and yes, my internet doesn't work all the time, and I'm a professional speaker, so I really need my internet to work, but I want my family to be happy. And, the other thing that I like is you didn't just say, oh, I got this great idea, I'm going to believe in my dream, I'm going to go all in, I'm quitting today, right? Like, you had a little bit of a plan that said, hey, I at least want to get my pension.
Yeah. A little bit of a plan. The plan wasn't really fleshed out like, we all hoped it would in terms of initially getting into the business. But I really believe God's hand is in this plan. I mean, a lot of the things that took place, even over the past 3 years after moving, really served as a reminder of what God is positioning us for. And it's not necessarily going to look the way that we want it to look. And yeah, some people might be upset at, how if this wasn't done right, this wasn't planned out the way it was. And that's all valid. That's not to say that people are not entitled to feel secure, even myself. But at some point, faith says you have to jump and then build your wings on the way down.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I was looking around trying to grab it. I must have left it in the living room, but we've been going through Think and Grow Rich. And one of the primary premises of that book is we have to suspend the need to know how. We need to take the next step, and then the next step after that will be opened up to us. And so what you just illustrated with your own life is a powerful concept that will help this audience move forward in their lives, because a lot of times we get I'm a very I pretend to be, not pretend, I turn on and enjoy the bubbliness and the funness of being around crowds and people and just kind of work in the room and all that. But after that's done, I go home and recharge, and then that analytical mind takes over. And I like to know the steps. I like to know all the steps. I like to know all the ways. And sometimes we just don't. Sometimes we just don't. And so I really love the fact that you brought this out. Now, I know you've got a book coming out we're going to talk about in a second, but before we do that, I want to continue on this line, because whether you're in government service or elsewhere, there are a lot of us that have way more capacity than we are using. And
Mhm.
what's holding us back is mindset. So what do you believe usually holds most people back in their mindsets?
I think is that dangerous four-letter word of fear. Um, Ignorance is kind of running alongside that, but I think fear is a major barrier because of how fear shows up and how it really just causes that that cycle of thinking to perpetuate itself. A lot of it really our belief system, what we believe about ourselves, what we believe about our situations, our circumstances, our conditions. And what we're not aware of a lot of times is the conditioning that we've undergone that has allowed that fear to just become dominant. And I think that when we really get a handle, and I was just thinking about this the other day, fear is really a hologram because it steps in front of the door that you want to move forward, and it shows itself. So I'm thinking about, for those who are familiar with Tupac, after he died, there were some concerts that were done with him on stage in a hologram. He's already passed, he's gone, but the hologram is there acting as though he's actually there. And I reflected on that and I said, well, that's how fear works. It shows up like the real thing, but it's really not real. It's only an illusion to make you fall right back into that quote unquote comfort zone, which is really not comfort at all. It's really you're a prisoner of comfort. So we have to be able to understand how our mind works, and our mind will feed off of anything you allow to come into it. So if you allow the wrong information, the wrong data to enter into your mind, your brain is going to process it and it's going to continue to churn out the same results because that's all it knows until you realize that the thoughts that you really want to hold on to need to become more dominant and you need to feed those. It's going to continue to be the same situation.
Well, that's part of the challenge then, is to really walk in the energy of what it is that you want. And for a lot of us, we spend so much time walking in the energy of what we don't want, that's what we attract into our lives. And we don't understand how all that goes. But when you said life begin, when you said that we slide back into our comfort zones, it made me think of one of my favorite quotes. So I reached over and grabbed it. And this is one of my favorite quotes from John Maxwell: life begins at the end of your comfort zone.
Absolutely. Because one of the things I realized in 3 years, and I've told people that I've been going through my own evolution and revelation journey the past 3 years. There's a lot of things that I had to unlearn and unpack in my own life. And one of the things that kept coming back, well, there's two things that kept coming back to me. One is that you have to be able to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yes.
It's life is going to throw you curveballs. You can't blame the pitcher. You have to be able to.
Oh, wait, say that again.
Life is going to throw you curveballs, but you can't blame the pitcher. If there's a curveball coming your way, you need to learn how to hit the curveball. And that'll make you an even more effective person in life, because there's always going to be a curveball. Matter of fact, any good pitcher in baseball, for people, any of your tribe watches baseball, they know that if some hitters are really good at hitting fastballs, as soon as you throw them a curveball, they have no way of being able to master that, because they haven't taken the time to step back and figure out, how do I approach this? How do I hit differently when I'm out of my comfort zone?
Yeah.
You're uncomfortable in the box. We have to be uncomfortable in the box in order to be able to deal with any pitch that comes our way. That's really one thing that stuck out. The other thing is kind of related to it. And you may be familiar with this one. You are the creator of your own outcomes. Because you can blame everybody under the sun, from whoever was president, whoever was your teacher, your parents, your situation in life. But at the end of the day, you are the creator of your own outcomes. You have the ability to transform and craft the life that you want through the quality of thinking that you present. So I think that's really another layer to the fear aspect, because if we allow fear to control us, then we're basically saying that our quality of thinking is completely on target, infallible, and doesn't need to go through any modification whatsoever. Well, if fear is showing up, then clearly that's not congruent. There has to be the awareness of how fear is showing up, and being aware enough to say, this is not serving me well. I need to figure out how I can break through that terror barrier and experience the freedom on the other side.
That's so good. That's so good. And I think about my own life, the times that fear has showed up, and I'm a generally fearless person. Like I'm the, how we always go to these conventions and we're encouraging people to step out on fear and do it afraid and jump and build your wings on the way down. And I'm the kind of person that like jumps and then's like, oh, wait a second, I didn't think about where I'm landing. I see that in my youngest son. My oldest son is more cautious, but my youngest son, boy, he's all thrust and no vector, as they say in the Air Force. And I'm like, oh, he got it honest. He got it from his mama before I learned how to be more strategic. But at some points, I remember being in $800-something thousand debt and getting out of that. It took me, this year makes year 12 that it took me to get out of that debt. And excuse me. Well, I mean, I thought I was out of it at the end of last year, and then the sale of that last house fell through. So anyway, just to be complete. But the thing is, I remember I could have been out of that debt a lot faster, except that I wouldn't take ownership of it, because it wasn't my fault. It was my ex-husband's fault. He's the one that pulled all those loans. He's the one that put himself on my credit card. Never mind the fact that I teach people not to use credit cards, and I should have closed that thing down long ago, but I kept it in reserve for emergencies. And I was like, what do you mean? I'm calling up AT&T. What do you mean I can't close this out? I had this card before I met him. Well, you're no longer the primary on this account. He is, And I blamed him. And then when I was done blaming him, I blamed the church. I blamed this person. I blamed that person. Man, if you'd have brought a dog to me, I'd have blamed him too, because it was just the blame game and the anger. And at the end of the day, we have to take responsibility for our lives. And what I wasn't doing is I wasn't taking responsibility for my life. No, these things weren't my fault. Life threw me a curveball, but I could sit in the corner and cry about it, or I could take charge of my life and do something about it. And so I remember that. And not only were those other fears of, oh, this is too much, oh, you're never going to do this, but I actually had a fear of me learning how to hit these curveballs might appear to someone else as a weakness of me saying it's okay. And I know that sounds kind of strange, but like for me, like if I cleaned up his mess, I shouldn't have to clean up his mess. Now everybody's going to laugh at me for cleaning up his mess. Everybody's going to ridicule me. I'm going to attract all these other people who just want to use and abuse me. And it's like, pick your flavor of fear. Like, you can find a fear to stop you. Maybe you're not afraid. Maybe you're a leap off the cliff person. I'm a leap off the cliff person, but maybe you got an egotistic fear. Maybe you got another fear that's holding you back. And so, you know, those fears show up. And what I think I'm hearing you say, and you can kind of add to it if I'm missing a few details, but I think what I hear you say is that we see these fears show up because we fall into inaction. We fall into anxiety, and we fall into regret that we're not moving forward in our lives, but we're not moving forward. But then we're mad we're not moving forward.
Yeah.
How else? I mean, if somebody today is like, well, I'm a pretty bold person. I'm not afraid of anything. How do they know if these mindset issues, fear and you know, lack of strategic thinking and things like that? How do we know that these things are we need to work on our mindset?
Yeah. As you were talking, I was thinking about something that Mike Tyson said. He said that everybody's confident when they step into the ring until they get punched in the face.
Ooh. I was trying to laugh. I love it.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, even for me, one of the things that I had struggled with, and at times I still do, being the person that has to sit down and analyze everything before making something happen. When in fact, we're really, it reminds me of something that John Maxwell said in the 20 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. He said that we have to learn how to, instead of saying ready, aim, fire, we need to say ready, fire, and aim. In other words, when we don't take action, we're just prolonging our own success. We're prolonging the dream that we had. We're prolonging that growth and development because we're just sitting there waiting for something to happen, hoping and wishing, but wishes don't come true. I don't care what Walt Disney says, wishes don't come true. You wish upon a star all you want to, but that does not mean that what you really want is going to materialize. There has to be the ability to take action. And in order to take action, we have to learn how to get over that, or really work through that terror barrier, really push through it, because we're going to find something, that hologram is going to show up, and we need to tell ourselves or craft a new belief system that says that's not real. Like the old saying, false evidence appearing real. Yeah, it seems real, but it's not real. We need to be able to say, okay, I already know that this thing is really, the Christian me says, that's the devil at work.
The devil.
It's the devil at work, because his best tactic is to scare. One of his best, I won't say the best tactic, but I think one of the things he uses effectively, without even having to do any work, without having to send his generals, he'll get a private or someone in training and say, here, just say boo. He'll flinch, or just wave your hands and she'll back down. And that's what he does. So we have to realize that fear is really a construct of our own thinking. And when we are able to process that, then we start to backtrack and say, okay, what really leads us to fear is worry. Because we have this mind seed that has already begun to sprout roots and it's already sunk into our unconscious mind. So even if something comes around that allows us to see what's possible, that seed has already sunken in and has got us, has allowed us to develop a belief system around that thought. So if we change our thoughts, we can change our feelings, and that will continue the process where we're able to see greater results. So we have to be able to say, this is really not something I need to get hung up about. I don't need to become fearful when in fact there is really no fear other than the one I've constructed.
Wow, that's powerful. That's powerful. Well, we are going to need to have you come back because I can tell that we have so much more to discuss. But we're about out of time, and I want to give you time to talk about this amazing new upcoming book that you have. I understand that it's coming out here fairly soon. Can you tell us a little bit about it and what prompted you to write it?
Oh yeah. The title of the book is Un-Civil-Ized: How Government Workers Behave and What to Do to Help Them. And the book really was more of a reflection on the personalities that I've seen, you've seen, the public comes across, leaders have to deal with. I just spoke with somebody that I know who leads a team of individuals, and she was saying, "Oh, I got the book because I don't know what to do with these people. They don't want to work. They don't want to. The people are leaving, and it's a very real issue that has plagued government agencies for decades. The fact that the government space does not really promote healthy behaviors. It doesn't. It has never done that. The corporate world will do that. The corporate world will put a spa in their building, but you're not going to see any spas in any agencies. That's not going to happen. You barely get a couch in the ladies' bathroom. So I wanted to write the book to help leaders, to help the employees, and also to help the public understand that these are people. They have their issues, they have their behavior profiles, but they're people. I wanted to humanize that to one degree, but also to really point out the fact that this isn't a systemic issue. And there is a way to work around that and to make the government workspace more holistic, more healthy. But there are some challenges that are going to have you got to contend with in order for that to happen. So I unpack a lot of the behavior mindsets and what I call the most problematic root behind these behaviors.
Oh, that's going to be a fantastic book. Well, I can't wait to get my copy. Let people know where they can go to get their copies.
They can go to uncivilizedbook.com. So just go there. You can pre-order the book. The book should be out, hopefully, if it all goes well, it'll be out early December. I think it's going to be a great read. And I believe that it will help a lot of people, just from the public angle, people in the public, to understand why is my D&D worker just sitting back there eating her sandwich and she knows that this line is going outside the door. And she seems like she cares that we need help. Well, there's a reason why. So the book will bring some context to that.
I love it. I love it. Well, Greg, thank you so much for being here. On behalf of the Building Wealth Together tribe, I want to thank you for offering your insight. And you know what I might do? I'm going to do something. I'm going to do something on the fly, unrehearsed and off the cuff. So I hope it comes out okay. What I'm going to do is, if any of our listeners want to send in some feedback for Greg, either a written testimonial or a video testimonial, I'm going to buy you a copy of Greg's book. I'm going to do that.
You. All right.
Because I really appreciate what you're doing, and I want to be a part of it. When you get rich and famous, I want to be able to see you on TV and say, I helped him get there.
Hey, I'll tell you this. I'll tell your tribe there. We met just a couple months ago. Only a couple months ago when we met.
Yeah, I know.
And the vibe that I got from you was so positive. And once I saw the empire that you're building, I was like, okay, this girl owns it. I mean, she is owning it. I mean, she is working all the angles in. I know it's just a matter. It's not a matter of time. It's actually in the process of happening now. So I'm glad to be on this ride with you, and we're gonna do this together, because that's the last you're gonna see of me. That's for sure.
I'm gonna hold you to it. All right, well, we're going to wrap up. I want everyone to remember that if you missed the 7th annual Building Wealth Together conference, it is never, never, never too late to get your VIP ticket. I love everybody, and I will always take your money. But you can always upgrade and get your recordings. You want to get those access, and you want to be uplifted and encouraged. Greg himself has a keynote in that conference, and you want to hear it. All right, that's going to wrap us up for today. Y'all take care and be blessed. Love the podcast? Be sure to like, subscribe, and forward to 3 friends. You can ask a question or take a life-changing class at buildingwealthtogether.com. Now, go walk in abundance and leave a legacy.